What's up, guys? It's Black and Blurred here. We're in a bit of a hiatus, but we are leaving that hiatus to talk about some important things. Because the news is swirling with more news that's very familiar news. And if you're familiar with our content and the topics that we discuss, we want to address it because we think it's important to address. But we first want to bring up the fact that I think that these tragedies we watch, these tragedies that we watch around the world, and it seems like every month we're getting hit with something.
They just pile up.
Every month we're getting hit with something. And I think that what happens is everybody is kind of like feeding off of their latest debate, right?
There's no refresh button. It's all just piled up on one big mess of tragedy.
Yeah. And so everybody is feeding off of their latest debate, whatever their latest argument was, whatever their latest roundtable discussion was, and the opinions that were there, and the debates and the hatred and the resentment and the bitterness that came there. And what happens is all that gets mushed into a waiting period or a queue. And then the next tragedy that comes, whichever side that tragedy benefits, they unleash hell.
Yeah.
And everybody begins analyzing the tragedy through the lens of victory, right?
Yeah.
That's what you get with that cigar. That's what you get. Oh, man, I thought that was a good cigar. Okay, never mind. Yeah, so everybody does that. Everybody does that. And I think for the Christian, in the world, that's not surprising, right? That's just humans. That's how humans are. That's what the human heart does. The human heart does that. But for the Christian, the principle of slowness to anger, slowness to speak, right? Mm-hmm. Quick to listen, that's out the window. It's gone.
Yeah.
It's not even a virtue.
Right.
Rather than scripture for us. And so these tragedies come one after another, and everybody jumps on their whatever platform it is. One, I think they do that because, the demands of social media. You got to be the first with the scoop.
Yeah.
Just like any media.
That's any media. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
You got to be
the matter if it's true.
Doesn't even matter if it's
true. Got to be first.
Yeah. And so there is no slowness to speak and quick to listen. And then not only that, there's just this anger and resentment and bitterness that we kind of love to possess toward one another as a result of these tragedies.
Right.
Meanwhile, there are still these people who have either lost life or have taken life.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just pawns in the game of our point proving.
Right.
And so it's just heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What are you about to say?
I don't want to jump too far ahead.
So that's what we want to do. When we address things, like some of our content may seem late. That's because we're just slow. But we're not interested in jumping on and addressing the thing as it happened.
Yeah.
Like we're human beings. You got to digest when these tragedies happen. You need to digest it. You need to learn how to grieve. You need to learn how to look at the overarching narrative and have a broken heart as a response to it before taking a side on the specifics regarding what's happening. These tragedies happen, and then either someone's a racist or someone is justified in killing a person.
Yeah.
And so either people are burning with anger and vengeance, or somebody has no remorse at all.
Yeah, they're just like, oh, well, he shouldn't have done that.
He shouldn't have done that. And people have chosen, and that's just the game we're playing.
Yeah.
Month after month after month, and we're just sitting in it.
And that's what happens, right? It pushes people to these extremes because there is no objectivity. You know what I mean? So it pushes people to these extremes. It's like when someone says, y'all love basketball. Yeah, I like basketball too. You know who I like watching? LeBron James. Yeah, I like watching LeBron too. He a fry Kobe. And now I have to act like I hate LeBron because you said that crazy thing. Now I got to be like, what? Why would you say that?
Yeah.
Because you weren't able to be objective and to weigh different things Now I got to act like I hate LeBron James. Like he's not that good. And then the argument as it goes on, it starts to act like, so you saying LeBron James is trash? Like, no, I'm not saying LeBron James. You know what I mean? You know how those arguments go.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what has happened. You got people who have ignored the objectives so long, the objectivity of each individual scenario for so long. It's pushed people to different extremes. You got the one extreme where it's everything's racist and everything is about black and white. And you got the other extreme where it's like, well, why didn't he listen? Back the blue.
Yeah, right.
I would love to see people's response on Back the Blue with this, the black lieutenant who got pulled over by the police.
Yeah, right.
Treated unfairly.
Right.
That's it right there. Where do we go?
Treated poorly.
Very terribly.
And so we want to talk about the tragedy involving Daunte, right? Mm-hmm. And we want to talk about it from an objective perspective. Obviously, if you know who we are, it's going to be from a Christian perspective. And we want to just try to touch on all the things that went down, provide our thoughts. Not to say that they're more valuable than anyone else's, but the beauty of having your own podcast is you get to share your own thoughts.
Right.
So let's just do that first. Let's stick with details of the tragedy. We're back in Minnesota again, while George Floyd's trial is going on.
Yeah.
Actually, it's Derek Chauvin's trial.
It's Derek Chauvin's trial. Right.
And
which I would say is a pretty unfair trial, but that's different.
Yeah.
Different. Different.
So we are in Minnesota. Mm-hmm. We are dealing with the police again.
Yeah.
And we are also in a situation where you have multiple officers. So break it down. What's happening? Because you've read more on this than me, so I'll let the more knowledgeable one speak.
Yeah. So, Daunte Wright was driving, got pulled over. The first media said that it was because he had air fresheners hanging.
I don't get it. What does that have to do?
Apparently, that was why they pulled him over, and that was the thing, right? They pulled him over because he had air fresheners, and he died because he had air fresheners hanging in his window, and that's why they pulled him over and killed him. But I don't think that's true. They pulled him over because he had expired tags. It was a normal traffic stop.
But even as I like to dabble in conspiracy,
in some states that's illegal.
Oh, is that it?
Yeah, in some states it's illegal to have things hanging from your rearview mirror or your.
We got to talk about that.
Yeah, that's
because awful. That's stupid.
That's a reason for police to pull you over and kill you.
Yeah, that's stupid. But go ahead, continue.
But yeah. So three officers. So there was a sergeant present. He was obviously in charge. Mm-hmm. There was a sergeant present. There was Officer Kim Potter. And then there was another black male officer who I think was in training. Kim Potter was training this officer. The sergeant was there to see everything as well. I mean, very rarely in a traffic stop do you see three officers pull up. And in that case, it was a training.
Yeah.
And so they pull him over. And usually the video that's out now starts after they pulled him over and run his license. And he's called his mother already and said he didn't have the insurance card. His mom said, tell them to call me. I have the insurance information. Mm-hmm. And so I think her mom was on the phone most of the time. His mom was on the phone most of the time. Mm-hmm. After they run his license, they figure out he has a warrant for his arrest. And this is a warrant for not appearing in court. His past rap sheet doesn't really matter in this scenario.
Right.
But it was a warrant. I don't even know I'm not even sure what the warrant was. I mean, it was for not appearing in court. I don't know what the court date was for. It could be a traffic violation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you don't appear in court, then they can put out a warrant for your arrest.
Right.
So initially he's complying. He gets out of the car, and the officer who was the trainee, I believe, was arresting him. And I think Kim Potter was kind of slightly behind him, taking down notes or writing down whatever she had to write down for the case.
Another detail I think in that real quick is as he's detaining Daunte Wright, he's doing a poor job.
Well, yeah, I thought we was going to get on that when we talk about how.
But I think that's a detail. We can share our thoughts on it, but that's a detail in it.
Well, like, I mean, yeah,
he
we
does
can
a
get
poor
into
job.
How botched this whole thing was,
right? But yeah, no.
But I just want to tell the story.
Yeah, go ahead.
For people who don't know what happened. So this officer is detaining Daunte Wright. I keep wanting to say Delonte West. My goodness, Daunte Wright. and it looks like he's struggling to put the cuffs on. And so Kim Potter comes to assist him to put the cuffs on. And as soon as he tries to he kind of kicks a hand off him, the police officer, the black officer, the male officer has two hands on him. As soon as he takes one hand off, Daunte West tries to get away.
Right.
Daunte Wright. My goodness, I'm an idiot. Daunte Wright tries to get away. He gets back in his car, tries to pull off, but Kim Potter draws her firearm and says, taser, taser. No, she tells him, I'm going to tase you, I'm going to tase you. Then she says, taser, 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 which is what they say before they deploy their taser. And she shoots him. Now, she shot once, and it looks like she dropped her gun because you could see both of her hands in her body cam.
Yeah.
She says, oh, crap, I just shot him. And he pulls off and drives away. And he eventually passed away he got shot in the chest.
Yeah.
And she says, oh, no, I think I just shot him. And you see the trainee, you just what? And then the sergeant was like, huh? They were both very confused. You just shot him?
Yeah.
And so he pulls away and he eventually passes away from his injury. She resigned the day later and was arrested and is charged with second-degree manslaughter.
What I would say regarding that last part,
Which part?
although what you just said as far as her being charged, she was detained and charged. A lot of these scenarios get looped into one picture where it's the same narrative all the time. I think they're always different. I think that they are unequivocally correct to have charged her.
Well, absolutely.
In this.
Absolutely.
Now trying to speak also in a compassionate way. If she were to come into this garage right now, my thoughts about her, because I don't have the information, would not be that she's a racist murderer.
Right.
I don't think that, and I think that's besides the point. I think that the badge that you wear means that you can't make those mistakes.
Right.
I can admit it may be a mistake. I don't know.
Right.
But guess what? You can't make those.
No.
You can't make those and get away with it.
Nope.
You can't do that. But let's go into thoughts on it.
Well, let's talk about what you were mentioning before. I mean, the trainee, as he's detaining him. Now, what police officers do as the officer is detaining. Now, the protocols and the procedures that these officers have, I'm afraid that they believe it's just to protect them.
Right.
And it's not meant to also protect the person they're detaining.
Yeah.
When a person is in your custody, whether they're a criminal or not, you got to keep them alive.
Right.
If you can. That's your job. That's what you swore to do.
Yeah.
And so these in this specific scenario, this police officer who was detaining him pulled him out of his car. Well, he didn't pull him out. He got out willingly and is cuffing him right next to his door while it's open.
Stupid.
Now, a criminal, because the police officers are supposed to be the competent, trained individuals who understand, who have been in these scenarios before, to protect themselves and the criminal, and the worst case scenario, which happened,
right?
Take him to the trunk or far away from his car, to your car.
Yeah, right.
Don't leave him by his door with the car running. That's not good.
Right.
That's not good. And I have some thoughts, completely backfired, but given the climate, I'm sure they want to be more lenient and more, they want to,
you can't,
it's, that was bad. And for there to be two other eyes there present, a trainer and a sergeant there, to not go, whoa, bring him back to the trunk. Isn't he training? I mean, what is this?
Right.
He was fumbling with the cuffs. He didn't know how to put the cuffs on properly.
Yeah.
To the point where he had to get two hands off. I mean, his foot placement was off. He didn't have any balance. This dude had all the leverage.
Yeah.
And if he was carrying a gun or if he was a violent criminal, he would have killed him.
Yeah, absolutely, easily.
He would have killed him.
Well, that brings us back to the scenario. I forget the location, but it was the young woman that got killed by the officer. Remember?
Mm-hmm. That was in Tennessee?
Yeah, Tennessee. Very suspicious. He didn't have control of the situation. She was able to get back into her car, get a weapon, discharge it at him, and put him on his knees.
Yeah.
He fired it as well. And so she ended up dying from that tragically. But because of your lack of competence and control, also physical ability.
Yeah.
This was a large dude.
Yeah.
And so, but well, I'll get into
And
my
so,
thoughts.
I mean, my main point in this is that who lives and who dies should be in the control 100% of the officers in those scenarios.
Mm-hmm.
I get that there are situations that they can't control. Mm-hmm. This wasn't one of those.
Right.
They were in control.
Right.
There was 3 officers and 2 people.
Or at least had the opportunity to be in control.
Yeah, they should have been in control.
Yeah.
And I mean, the taser thing, that's just goes without saying. I mean, if you've ever held a gun before,
there's nothing I can say.
There's no, like, listen, I've seen some people say, I mean, don't the gun have a safety? Da, 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 da. She's carrying a Glock 22 that does not have a safety.
No. Not only that,
it's factory. Mm-hmm. And a factory Glock trigger is about a 5-pound or 6.5-pound trigger pull.
Which means you got to do work.
You got to pull the trigger.
You got to do work.
There is no whoopsie daisy.
Right.
Now, on the other hand, the taser has safety mechanisms. Mm-hmm. You have to charge it. There's a red and green light that show up,
right,
and a LED light,
right,
to show what you're tasing.
And so if she thought she was tasing him, yet if she held her gun and thought she was tasing him, mm-hmm, then she would have at least gone through the mechanics of removing the safety mechanisms from that taser first.
Right.
Then she would have realized, oh, I don't have my taser.
Right.
I have this full-sized Glock 9mm.
Right. And not to mention, you carry your gun on your dominant hand side. Right. Your taser is either, as a police officer, either on your chest or on your opposite side. So she has to cross draw this taser. You know what I mean? Like there is no. Okay. I don't know what's worse. If it's a mistake or on purpose.
Yeah, I know. I don't know what's worse.
If it's a mistake, she has to go to prison. That's not a whoopsie daisy you can make.
Yeah, right.
If it's on purpose, she has to go to prison longer.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's on purpose, but unfortunately in these kind of cases, they can't prove that it's on purpose. You can't prove
that it's on purpose.
But this isn't one of those cases where you go, this was justified.
Yeah, right.
And just like the woman who walked into the apartment and shot someone by mistake, went to prison.
You got to go to prison.
This woman has to go to prison.
It's I think that you addressed everything I probably want to address regarding my thoughts, and we can go ahead and get to the narrative behind it all. What I hate is that there are real concerns that come from these circumstances.
Right.
And we addressed this about a year ago on one of our episodes. Oh, wait. This was a George Floyd we were talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the same to police department.
Same to police department.
Same terrible training.
We addressed this when we said, because of our own personal experience, because of the different stories that cycle throughout the country, there is a conversation that needs to happen regarding policing. Mm-hmm. And that conversation will never happen because the media narrative will just have us fighting each other's skin colors.
Right. Right.
And when it comes to a conversation that needs to happen on policing, a conversation that needs to happen on competence, training, but then outside of all the things that need to happen within the police department, there's an overarching conversation that needs to happen considering citizenship,
right,
and freedom, mm-hmm, and rights. Because a lot of these different stops and a lot of these things, a lot of these escalating scenarios involve police officers.
I'm finished with this.
I don't know why you were smoking it in the first place. But a lot of these things involve police officers. Mm-hmm. And a police officer, I don't really care whether or not you're racist. Right. You are not in a capacity to act on it. Right. Right. It doesn't matter. The conversation of racism is so fruitless, mm-hmm, because that means that a person who is not racist gets a pass.
And you know what, though? If racism is the issue, there is no solution. Say if she is a racist and she shot him because she's racist, but there is no evidence in that video to prove she's racist. How do you fix it? What's the solution? The long-term solution.
Yeah, right. Right.
If the problem, however, is government overstepping, with these unconstitutional, say it was because of air fresheners. It's a stupid unconstitutional law.
Yeah, very much.
Lack of training, incompetence.
Yeah.
Some would argue that women don't belong in the police department, physically handling people.
Men, definitely.
Huh? Men don't. Right.
Men.
Yeah. Women don't belong handling men. Some people would say that.
Yeah.
And
there are aspects of that I agree with for the safety of both.
For the safety, right. And these are real issues that have solutions.
Yeah.
And then on the other side of it, teaching our young men to not have a record at the age of 20 years old, to lessen their encounters with police. That's a different issue.
And composure. That is different. And you know what? I thought about talking about that because that does contribute to this, right?
Right.
If that does contribute. His desire to try to evade the police escalated the scenario.
Right.
However, this situation right now where I just think that this is a completely botched job by the police.
Well, absolutely.
Department.
It's 100%.
And from start to finish, they had an opportunity to be in control, and their lack of competence removed them from that opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And then that lack of competence manifested itself in deadly force.
Right. It cost someone their life.
I can't believe you. Everything you're doing makes me want to hate you right now. But and so I want to touch on something you said real quick, and then get back to the narrative and how we need to rise above the media's desire to manipulate us and be at each other's throats. When police officers speak from a selfish perspective, I want to be fair. I understand what they're saying. However, that's not the role you're in.
No. And, that's why I have a problem. I actually spoke to an officer who was outside of a Wegmans one time. He's on duty and has a back the blue mask on. It's like, that's not your priority. You're in the wrong job. Join the military.
Right. Because then then in the military, you police on enemy territory.
Right.
You police enemies in the military.
So when we look at you, what we see is an enemy.
Right.
And when you look at us, what you see is an enemy
and a threat
or an other or someone else.
Meanwhile, policing is communal. We can get to the origins of it. Obviously, the origins of it aren't from a friendly mindset, right? Aren't from a friendly perspective. But however, what it has progressed into is a communal thing. And then I think the reason race is put in it is because today you still see aspects of community only in certain communities.
Right.
Now, I think the narrative that is more important involves citizens and freedoms. And the reason that narrative is not propagated today, the reason why that narrative is left mute,
right,
and the media doesn't want to talk about that.
Racism is the thing.
The reason we got to keep hating each other because of skin is because the moment citizens start caring about a peace officer, they'll end up caring about politicians too.
Right.
The moment a citizen starts holding police officers accountable, they start holding politicians accountable too.
Right. So when you start working up the ladder, you start talking about training and policies and procedures for police officers, then you start looking at chiefs and state government officials.
Yeah.
You start looking at your governor. You start looking at the mayors of cities. You start going, what is going on in your police department?
Right.
And they don't want you looking there.
Yeah.
They don't want you looking there.
That's right. They want you looking at your neighbor.
Right. Yeah.
Keep looking at your neighbor and keep hating them.
Right.
Keep you guys stay at each other's throats. Meanwhile, we, the ones who are for the policing system that's in your communities, will stay unscathed. And we'll get you riled up and fired up at hating each other. We'll use different rhetoric and all the different statements to keep you hating each other.
It also puts police in a bad spot.
Yeah.
Some of them don't even know how to police.
Yeah, you can't police. And so, I do feel bad for the good ones.
Yeah.
Because just going back to the Tennessee scenario, that dude was extremely kind to that woman. And it ended up with a round in his chest and on his knees in the pavement.
That's why it's not on the news. That's
right. Because you don't have a easily racist scenario, but you do have the backfiring of the narratives.
Yeah.
So, I guess that's as far as we can dive into it. We just hope that people begin to see what is happening. That's always been a thing. See clearly. All this stuff is so blurry now. It's so blurry. And so what we're jockeying for is these points of saying, hey, see, I told you all y'all racist, or see, I told you y'all are all thugs and you're criminals and the police are justified. And it's like, guys, we need to pause and try to look at who's controlling the joystick.
Yeah. And also, just the cry for justice is or for injustice is premature. All the time. It's always premature. Yeah. It's like these people will go to court. They will have their, you know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
They will be tried. And then go to prison.
Right. And I do believe that if Kim Potter is tried and goes to prison, that is justice. I do believe that.
Yeah.
It's
a tragedy.
It's tragic
for both people.
And that's why it makes me so angry. Let's say that Kim Potter is just a stand-up citizen, a mom. I don't really know all this stuff. I'm just hypothetically. I mean, it's just an upstanding citizen who was out training an employee to do the job well, which I don't believe she should have been qualified for because she has a past that seems to not. But it makes me so angry that we aren't having a conversation on competency in police departments because it's putting multiple parties at risk.
Right.
So now you have a dead person and a life ruined. And
not to go backwards, but not to mention, she had her gun that she thought was a quote unquote taser pointed at everybody in that situation.
Everybody.
It was pointed at her fellow officers. Right. It was pointed at the passenger. It was just a mess. Very careless.
Everything is
Every
just so
gun
bad.
Safety rule was violated by this officer who's supposed to be the one in control.
Our wives know not to do that. And it's not. It has nothing to do with we're better people and we care about people more. It's about time and competence and training, and that's it. And you have conversations about gun knowledge and gun handling. The first conversations you have is direction, where you're pointing it, and awareness of where your finger is.
Backstop.
Everything. You talk about those things. Why aren't police required to show competency on a consistent basis?
I'd say monthly.
A consistent basis. I should not see obese police officers policing.
Yeah.
Why? Because you either end up as the guy in Tennessee getting shot by somebody, so that's harmful for police, or because a police officer may know, hey, I'm out of shape. If this dude tries to do something, I'm going to have to shoot and kill him, even though he's unarmed.
Right. It goes the same for women.
Yeah, the same for women. A woman sees a 6'4" dude and she has to stop. We've seen it on video.
Yeah.
Bystanders get shot and everything.
Yeah.
Because of fear. This conversation about policing needs to stop being so hyperbolized. It needs to be stopped. It's become a caricature of society.
This narrow-minded racism.
Yeah.
It's silly.
It's a fruitless conversation. It's fruitless in this realm. It's counterproductive. And so now you don't have community policing. You have enemy combatants and you have enemy policers.
Yep.
And this is not going to end unless we, the people, recognize the value of what it means to be the people, what it means to have elected officials and hold them accountable.
Right.
There are certain sides that don't like that.
Yeah.
The authority of the people. They don't like that. Holding police departments accountable, holding the chiefs and the dudes up top accountable.
Yeah.
And I mean, to be honest with you, my raw emotion, I know this is not good. We've talked about this, but my raw emotion is, hey, when something like this happens, show me the boss.
Right.
Yeah. Show me the boss. You know what I mean? If my steak is bad and the person comes out and says, look, it ain't my fault. Now I want to talk to your boss.
Right. Right.
Now we're talking about lives being lost.
Right.
Where are the bosses?
Right.
And then where's their boss? And where's their boss? We, the people, have an opportunity to look into that information, and we have the power to attain that information. But we don't care about it because my neighbor over here hates me because of my skin color, and I hate them because of my skin color.
Bring back the police officers that care about people.
Yeah.
This is the last thing I'll say, but looking at the Derek trial, I've been looking at the Derek Chauvin trial. And just that video, obviously they play the video over and over again. And the one thing that bothers me the most,
the dude standing in front,
him, Derek Chauvin, and there was one other guy, but there was an officer next to him, I think Lang, who was kind of, being personal and say, hey, should we flip him over? Should we do this? what I see in their eyes is this lack of this care for humanity.
Yeah.
This callous, sentry-like, robotic, calloused heart.
Militarized.
Well, this guy is just an enemy, right?
Militarized.
He's a bad guy, and we're not really concerned with his well-being.
Right.
It doesn't matter. Even all of you shouting at us saying, check his pulse, or he's passed out, he's not even conscious. You are also others.
Yeah, right.
You know, none of those officers are willing to take those angry people aside and go, hey, look, this is what we're dealing with. I need you to calm down. You're actually making it a little bit worse for us.
Right.
We're trying to stay focused on him. We can't focus on him when you're screaming. It draws our attention to you. We don't really know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No one wants to be a person anymore.
Right.
And bring it back to Kim Potter and the other officer. And if you know how it goes, you've been in the force for over 20 years, 26 years. Mm-hmm. Instead of pulling Daunte West out and not really saying much, they put
Daunte Wright
out, putting his hands behind his back and not really saying much to him. Like, hey, Daunte.
Yeah.
We want you to make it out of this alive. Please don't do anything wrong.
This is about your tags.
Right.
We want to check to make sure everything's clear.
We want you to get out of this thing alive. We want you to get home to your mom. Please don't make a bad choice right here. We're going to take you in.
And those officers exist.
Yeah, they do.
They're just few and far in between.
Yes. Yes.
They exist.
And that's how you show care about people. Like, hey, this isn't a big deal. We're going to take you in. All you have to do is pay this fine. We'll get you out.
Right.
We're not looking in your car. We're not going to do that stuff.
Yeah.
We want you to go home. And they don't, instead it turns into this other thing. You're just this guy in this car, another one of my job things.
Yeah, right. Right.
You've forgotten what your job is.
You've forgotten what it is. So, look, we here at Black and Blurred believe that policing is necessary. Mm-hmm. We believe it's necessary for a civilized society. However, it comes with boundaries because freedom is precious. I know it's not precious as of today, as of late, as of the recent years, but we believe it's precious. And that's why policing exists.
Right.
Because criminals infringe on other people's freedoms.
Right.
In a harmful way, in a non-harmful way. I mean, non-violent way, possibly.
Yeah.
Sometimes violent ways, but it's the infringement on freedom. That's important. And we believe that policing is a dangerous job. We believe that it is a valiant job. But that's only the case for those who hold it in such a high status and handle it right. And when it comes down to the conversation that is definitely needed in policing, the conversation on policing in America, that conversation transcends skin color.
Right.
It transcends it. And any conversation that's transcending skin color ends up unifying diverse peoples. And there are people who don't want to see that. We hope y'all see that clearly. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll holler at you.